Hi guys, and welcome back to the Park End Podcast. My name is Cameron. Welcome to episode number 3 of the podcast. We haven't done an episode for a few weeks now. I have been, backlogged with a load of games. Everton seem to be playing every 5 minutes now. We've had the game against Man United, the win against Leeds, and the game against West Ham, I think, since we last done a podcast as well. But we are back and in full swing, and what a fantastic guest we have to join us on the podcast today. I am absolutely honoured and proud to be joined by an Everton legend, Super Kevin Campbell, joining us again for the second time on the channel. If you watch us over on YouTube, TheMightyBlues, you'll have seen the previous interview with Kevin Campbell where we sat down and we talked about Everton so far this season. A lot's changed since then, Kev. We've come back into form like you predicted we would. We had a little bit of a rocky spell at the start of the year, and then of course we've had a couple of really good results. That one against Manchester United more recently being very emotional, shall we say that. So I thought today, Kev, we could sit down, talk about your career at Everton Football Club, of course, coming to Everton as a player and having the impact that you did, which, you know, still to this day, whenever I mention your name to Everton supporters, I've had a lot of supporters, we're putting comments in on the previous video that we've done and messaging me on Twitter and stuff saying how much of a legend you are to them and how important you are to Everton Football Club and where we are today. But before we get into that, how are you, mate? How's things? How's life been?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm healthy. I'm fit, and I'm working. That's all you can do sometimes. You know, keeping your head right. And I'm doing quite a bit online, obviously, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So everybody, family's okay, so can't complain.
Good stuff. Happy days. Well, we'll get straight into it anyway. We'll get straight into the thick of it. No messing about. So obviously you started your footballing career at Arsenal. I believe I read a stat before. I don't know if this is true. You made your debut against Everton.
Yeah,
made your debut
in 88.
In 88. Yeah, 7th of May, 1988.
At Goodison.
Goodison as well. So yeah, I never knew that. I googled it before, and I was looking for your Everton debut because it was actually a bit before my time. And it come up that your debut against for Arsenal was against Everton. So
yeah. So you think about this, Cameron. In that side, Neville Southall, Gary Stephen, Trevor Stephen. At the back on the day was Kevin Ratcliffe, Pat Van Den Hal. I'm trying to think who was it John Bailey left back? I think Bells was left, or one of them guys. Midfield was Trevor Stephen on the right, Sheedy on the left, Peter Reid and Paul Bracewell in the midfield. Up front was Graham Sharp and Adrian Heath.
So a difficult team to make your debut against then, I think that's fair to say.
That was brilliant, because, listen, I used to get these guys in my sticker book, the Panini sticker book. So it was, for me, it was, wow, I couldn't believe it. Absolutely loved it. And, it was quite ironic I made my debut against Everton, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
All these years gone.
It is, because I remember I was reading it before and I read about the debut and I read a bit of the article that it was written on, and it said, with backup strikers like Paul Merson, and I thought, Paul Merson never played for Everton, and then I read it and realised you made your debut against Everton. Obviously 228 appearances for Arsenal, 46 goals. What was it like growing up then as a young lad? Because I suppose most young lads' dreams, certainly in this country, is to grow up and become a professional footballer, and it gets to a point in your life, certainly for me, probably when I was about 13 and I wasn't even getting in the team of me Sunday league side, that you realise, this isn't probably going to happen for me, this dream isn't realistic. So what was it like for you growing up and getting to that point where you picked up by Arsenal and you move into the Arsenal Academy and starting to realise that this was it a dream for you, or was growing up?
It's always been a dream. I supported Arsenal as a kid, and I went to my first game in 1977, and obviously supported Arsenal. I was 7 years old then, so I was a fan before I was even contemplated playing.
Yeah.
But the great thing about being a fan is when you actually go to the ground and you actually see it. Because watching it on TV or, listening to it on the radio, which we had to do quite a bit then, you got a feeling about it. But when you actually get to the stadium, it's totally different.
Yeah.
The feeling, all the noises, the smells, and then that green carpet grabs you, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I always wanted to play football, since a young kid. of course you want to play,
Yeah.
but you don't know how it's gonna go. It's very difficult. Obviously, we're talking about the 70s and early 80s. Luckily, I got scouted playing for South London schools by Fred Ricketts, and went across to Highbury to train. And who was the coach training me at the time was Pat Rice, the captain who'd lifted the cups and been captain of the football club. He was the youth team coach.
Yeah.
But he used to take the boys on the midweek in the academy. So it was brilliant learning from him.
Yeah.
And we realized it was just a stepping stone. But you grew up quickly under Pat Rice.
Yeah. I can
He
imagine.
was really good.
Yeah, I can imagine, and like you mentioned there, growing up being an Arsenal supporter, I mean, all I know is Everton Football Club. I've been going to Goodison Park since I can remember. First game I went to, I had to leave because I couldn't take the atmosphere. It was too much for me, and now I'm loving it. And like you said, it's different, and sitting at home and watching it on the telly, certainly now in the times that we're in, and I know obviously it can't be helped and there's much more important things, but even tonight when I'll be sitting there watching it on BT Sport, it's going to feel, a little bit, still be a part of me that thinks I should be sat at Goodison Park, we should be creating that atmosphere, we should be giving Tottenham no chance whatsoever.
No peace. The 12th man should be there.
That's it.
Cameron, here's the crazy thing. A lot of people, and I don't want to veer off track. I want to keep it on track. A lot of people, because of what's going on right now, think, oh, the fans all right because they're at home watching the game.
Yeah.
I know fans don't want to be home. Fans want to be at the ground.
Yeah.
They want to be there. They want to feel the atmosphere because there's a togetherness when you're actually at the stadium, and that feeling you get, especially how the team's doing, Cameron.
Yeah.
What would it be like at Goodison? It'll be bouncing, mate. Do you know what I mean?
That's
it. Again, I know the 12th man would make a massive difference. Fingers crossed and touch wood. I want, obviously, Everton to smash them up tonight. I tell you, smash them tonight. Just win by the odd goal. It don't matter as long as you get through. But getting scouted and coming through the ranks at a football club that you support is the ultimate.
Yeah.
It really is the ultimate. Obviously, when you've been scouted, it's just the beginning. But to actually be there and you're starting to feel part of the football club, it makes you look at things a little bit different, Cameron, definitely.
I can imagine. And did you put a lot of pressure on yourself as a young lad then, like you said, growing up and being an Arsenal supporter and having that opportunity to go through the ranks and, like you said, being, coached by Pat Rice, who was, an icon at Arsenal and lifted all of the trophies. Was there a pressure that you put upon yourself to make it? You hear a lot of footballers talk about how, they put the hard work in when they were a younger player, and there's always that argument is when people say, football isn't a difficult job, blah blah blah. And look, I understand that footballers are paid an awful lot of money, certainly in this day and age, but the hard work does go in, doesn't it? And from your point of view, growing up in the Arsenal academy, I suppose, was always that pressure from yourself to make it and to one day, go out and in that Arsenal team and play in front of all of those fans?
Well, I wanted to get out of Brixton, that's for sure. Coming up in the 70s, Brixton, was a very difficult place. Yeah. It was there was a lot of racism.
Yeah.
With police and stuff like that. But I always wanted to play football. I wanted to be something. So, I had a great opportunity. We're talking about the times there, Cameron, where one day you could train at Arsenal, the next day you could train at Charlton, you could train at Millwall, you could train at Crystal Palace, you could train at Chelsea. You could train at 5 different clubs on 5 different nights.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't sign until you're 12 years old.
Okay.
Got to 12 years old, signed for Arsenal, and then you're dedicated to Arsenal. You can't go to any of the other clubs. So, and then you kind of focus in on your fledgling youth career.
Yeah.
So from 12, every year you're hoping to get a renewal for 13, 14, 15. And then obviously once you get to 16, you're looking at apprentice scholar now, but it was like a YTS youth training scheme.
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about. You've got to try and get to that stage. And luckily, from the age of 15, most of my weekends were taken up playing with the Arsenal youth team and the under-16s playing on a Sunday
Yeah.
for Arsenal under Pat Rice and Vic Akers, who was the kitman for years. So it was kind of mapped out a little bit. So it was great when the letter dropped and I got accepted to be a YTS at Arsenal. That was kind of the first rung.
Yeah.
Although you're not professional, it's the first rung on the professional ladder to try and make it. So it's amazing. Whether it's Arsenal or anywhere else, to be able to get on that's the first stop, getting on that rung as a YTS. And you're not earning great money, Cameron. You're earning £27.50 a week, and then the second year I was earning 35 quid a week. Do you know what I mean?
It's all about the ladder, though, isn't it? Got to start somewhere.
But it's the hard work.
Yeah.
You do work hard. There's a lot of moving parts behind there that a lot of people don't see, and just think lads just turn up and earn the money. They definitely don't. Yeah. There's a lot of sacrifice that has to go in, but to be able to make that sacrifice. Yeah, and to make it, you've got to be good.
Yeah.
You've got to be good. And I know there's times players don't have good times at clubs, but to make a professional, you've got to be good.
That's it. You've got to be talented. I can remember a number of times where there was scouts and who come to watch our Sunday league games, and we used to play with some lads that I used to think he's going to be a whale beater. He's going to be a whale beater, and the scouts would turn up, and you'd have a little word with the manager a couple of weeks later, and he'd say they just didn't want to take him on, and you think, wow, how can anybody be better than this lad? He's running rings around everybody, but there's you like you said, you have to be that level. So you went on, you realised that dream at Arsenal, like I said, made your debut against Everton in May 1988, 228 appearances, 46 goals for Arsenal. Had a couple of loan spells out to Leyton Orient and Leicester, moved to Nottingham Forest and then over to Turkey, of course. So you'd had a couple of moves then between leaving Arsenal and like I said, a couple of loan moves and then a couple of permanent, and then Everton come along, and there's a famous saying from a very famous Everton legend, Alan Ball, which is, once Everton has touched you, nothing will be the same. And I feel like you are a real hero with Evertonians, and you've really embraced being an Evertonian, because not just with Everton fans, but there's a lot of footballers who move to clubs and play for clubs, and they don't really have that affiliation. And look, it's understandable if you've grown up a United fan and you move to play for Sunderland and you play for a couple of years and you play well, but then you move on. You don't have to have an affiliation. But what was it about Everton, and what drove you to Everton? Firstly, of course, like I said, it was at a time where we were really struggling in the league. Relegation was a definite conversation, 1998, 1999. So after sort of like moving around a little bit, after leaving your boyhood club at Arsenal, what was the big sort of decision point in thinking, yes, I want to go and make my career at Everton, I want to join them?
Well, I mean, I was in Turkey, and for whatever reason, I was suspended from the team. I wasn't playing, and it was there. That's where there was a March transfer window.
Yeah.
And obviously, if I'm out in Turkey and I'm not playing, I might as well be in England.
Yeah. Playing.
I'm an experienced guy. I've got something to offer to a team. So I spoke to my agent at the time, and he said, right, there's 5 clubs interested. So I said, who are they? And the first name out of his mouth was Everton. So I said, stop right there. That's where I want to go. The reason why I said that, Cameron, was because growing up, I'd witnessed what Everton were, how Everton played, the fan base, the size of the club, even coming through and seeing Arsenal engage with Everton. There was a lot of respect between the clubs as well, and there was a lot of respect between the players. But when Everton and Arsenal played, it was a battle, because both clubs were the big clubs.
Yeah.
Obviously, Arsenal battling Liverpool as well at the time. So it was just a real feel-good factor coming to Liverpool to battle either Liverpool or Everton, because at the time, Liverpool and Everton were the teams that were up there.
Yeah.
So I know what type of club it was. And I'd kept abreast of what was going on in England. I knew Everton had a really good squad, but they were playing Danny Cadamarteri and Franny Jeffers up front. And I was looking, I'm thinking, wow. I said, they're 2 good young players.
Yeah.
But they got no real experience. They've got no experience. So as soon as my agent mentioned Everton first, I thought, that's where I want to go because I know, they lack a bit of experience up top, which I've got.
Yeah.
And I know the club. I know Everton as a club. I know how big Everton are. And if I could play at Arsenal, I could play at Everton.
Yeah,
Do
definitely.
you know what I mean? One of those ones. So I knew what type of club. Everton are a club who they know their football.
Yeah.
So that's what I decided. I didn't want to hear any of the other five clubs. Everton came out number one out of his mouth, and that's where it stopped, and that's where it finished. So it was right. That's where I want to go.
Amazing. Well, you joined on loan initially in 1999, March 1999, like you mentioned, the transfer window. Scored 9 goals, I believe, in 8 games or 8 or 9 games. Finished the season Everton's top goal scorer. And like I said earlier on, you're looked at by many Evertonians. I mean, I speak to my dad, who's downstairs now. I've spoke to a lot of Evertonians who commented on the video that we did on the channel or on social media. And, they really do hold you in the highest esteem and say that if it wasn't for Kevin Campbell, who knows where Everton would be now, because Everton might have, been relegated in that season. First 3 games, 6 goals. We finished 14th in that season, but just 7 points off of the relegation zone. So in terms of coming into Everton, like you mentioned there, when the name was mentioned, you only wanted to join Everton. It was one club. Was that Everton feeling gripped as soon as you stepped into, the doors at the football club? Did you just sort of feel, an Evertonian, feel part of the family? Because you hear a lot of players talk about that, don't you?
Well, I've got to say no, because it was actually before that, Campbell.
Okay.
I was getting a flight from London up, and I was getting a flight from London to Manchester. I was getting picked up in Manchester.
Yeah.
And I got on a flight, and I was sitting beside this guy, and we just got talking. And funny enough, Cameron, he was an Evertonian, wasn't he?
I believe.
But he didn't know who I was.
Yeah, okay.
So we were talking football, and he was telling me about all the trials and tribulations about Everton and how, we're doomed and all that kind of thing, blah, 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 blah. And as we started our descent, he said, so what you do going to Liverpool? I said, I've got some work on in Liverpool. I said, I'm going to meet a Mr. Smith, who's quite a prominent person in Liverpool and stuff. And he never got it. So no, he didn't get it. He didn't twig. So we landed, and as we're coming through, there's Walter Smith and Bill Ellaby waiting for me. So as we come through, we get through, and he kind of recognizes them, and then they see me, and they come over and shake my hand, and he's like open mouth. I grab him over, but he told me everything about the Evertonians. You give 100%, Everton will love you, blah, 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 blah. But he didn't know who he was talking to. And then obviously he realized. So, that kind of made me feel, as a fan base, as a player, should I say, as a player listening to what he was saying, it appealed to me because I always give everything. I always try. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It may not always work out, Cameron.
But
I'll always have a go. I'll always have a try. And I think I needed Everton, and Everton needed me right at that particular moment. So, as I said, even before I actually came into the club, I felt it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I actually came into the club, met the lads and everything, it was all over. Met the fans. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I felt at home from second one, not even minute one, from second one. And that reflected in the way I played. I got on with the players straight away. Had a rapport with loads of different players there. Had a good feeling about them. And, the rest, I wouldn't say the rest is history, but you could see game after game that we were building.
Yeah.
And myself and Franny Jeffers just had this understanding, playing as a pair at the top end of the pitch. And in the end, we all came through, which was brilliant. And there's a moment in when we played West Ham at home in the penultimate game of the season at Goodison, where I think we were obviously six up, and Evertonians kept invading the pitch. They kept invading the pitch because they were so happy. And you know what? That made me feel so brilliant for everybody concerned. And it was a great end to what was a difficult season for a lot of Evertonians.
Yeah, spot on. That's an amazing story. That I bet you that fella's sitting there. I don't know whether he'll be watching now. If he is watching,
No, he actually came. He actually came to the West Ham game.
Oh, okay.
He came to the West Ham game. I got him players' lounge tickets and everything, and he was in tears because he just said, "I was sitting beside you on the plane, and you never said nothing." You know what I mean? It was brilliant, absolute. But that's the feeling I always got from the Everton fans. Whether it was going good or bad, they were always backing.
Yeah.
They always backed me. So,
yeah.
I'm forever grateful, and Everton touched me in my heart, and they're always going to be in my heart.
Amazing. Well, that is very much Everton Football Club summed up. I mean, I pretty much say it on every preview that we do. I don't mind getting beat by a better team. Obviously, it's annoying. Obviously, it's frustrating. But as long as those players give it 110% for the shirt and leave it all on the field, that's all you can ask for ultimately. And, you talked about coming in with that attitude, and it was bound to work at Everton Football Club because we are a fan base that do absolutely love players that give 110%, and of course we understand that in some games it mightn't be your best game, but as long as you're constantly trying, right. And we've seen Everton legends through the years who have done that, haven't we? Tim Cahill, Duncan Ferguson, so
loads,
yeah, absolutely,
loads of players, and the affection that the fans have had it hard.
Yeah,
Everton fans have had it hard. They haven't had it easy. There's been some sparing success. And, the last trophy was obviously 1995 winning the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to move on to Mr. Ancelotti and Big Dunk. But I just think, the club have had quite a few false starts in the past years. But for the first time, they've got a manager in who nobody could question.
Yeah, that's it.
Carlo Ancelotti is the perfect manager for Everton because he's the one who sets the plan. And now they are sticking to that plan. It might take another season or two, but you could see the shape of the team and the club coming now. And that's so important for everybody concerned to actually see we are improving.
Yeah.
Look at the Rolls-Royce engine that's in that midfield now. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
That's it. Absolutely spot on. And like you said, for the first time in a long time, this is an Everton team that I think everybody gets behind. Even when we lose, even when there's setbacks, we all understand, right, this is a process. I mean, there's been a couple of times this season, Kev, where the idea of maybe even challenging for a title has popped into my head, and then the odd game makes you think, no, you know what? This is Carlo's first full season. He hasn't even been here a full season yet, so we know it's a building process, and I think
and Cameron, it's COVID.
Yeah.
So you've got to take that into consideration. So when you actually look at the job Carlo Ancelotti's doing, he's doing an absolutely brilliant job.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
I agree. I think we're completely overachieving this season so far, certainly in terms of league position, and there's been a number of times where I've sat down and after games and I find myself, and it's very easy to say this obviously because it's very easy to bring this up after you win, but I find myself sitting there after wins and thinking we wouldn't have won that under previous manager, or that mentality wouldn't have been there previously. We'd have lost that game, the Watford game back end of last season, coming back 2-0 down to win 3-2. Even the Man United game a couple of days ago, when you go 2-0 down at Old Trafford, Everton teams in the past, not many Everton teams get back up and get back into that game, but we have done. I just want to touch a little bit more on that season when you joined on loan in March 1999. Like you mentioned, we played Sheffield Wednesday, played Coventry City, beat Coventry City, played Newcastle United, 1-3-1. You mentioned Charlton Athletic, West Ham, as well. It was a massive period for the football club, and like I said, to score 6 goals in 3 games and 9 in 8 and become Everton's top goal scorer within the final 8 games of the season. It was what helped Everton stay up, and ultimately Everton wouldn't be where we were now, I believe anyway, without staying in the Premier League, because we've never been relegated, and it can be that vicious cycle when you get relegated. Some teams bounce back up the next year, some teams spiral down, and you don't see again for a long time. Look at Leeds, only just come back up. They were a massive club in the Premier League. Sunderland were in the Premier League pretty much all my lifetime, were relegated once, and we still haven't seen them since. So at the end of that March, at that season, the 98-99 season, then when the opportunity arose to sign for Everton on a permanent deal, was there anything contractually that said there was an obligation, or was it just you? Did you just think, this is where I want to be now, I want to sign permanently?
No, I mean, I just to go back to the playing part, it was, everything gelled.
Yeah.
My first two games. My first game was the Merseyside derby at Anfield. We lost the game 3-2. That's the one where Robbie Fowler was supposed to be eating the grass
Yeah.
through his nose.
Yeah.
We lost that game 3-2, and then we played Sheffield Wednesday at home, and we lost 2-1. We were winning 1-0 at half-time, and we made two terrible mistakes at the back. We gave the ball straight to Benito Carboni twice, and he went through and scored, and we ended up hitting the bottom three. And I never forget Walter Smith coming in and saying, "Listen, lads, now's the time where the big characters have to step up."
Yeah.
And I remember, Dave Watson, Waggy, Davey Weir, Craig Short, Thomas Myra, Olivia Decor, myself, Dave Vons, all the guys kind of got together, and there was a steely determination, and that's when we kind of went on a run. The next game was Coventry.
Yeah.
Which we won, as you mentioned. Then you're looking at Newcastle, then you're looking at Charlton, and you go on a run, and you start to win. And when you start to win, the confidence starts to come back, and the fans the fans are with you, but the fans could easily get on board when you're rolling.
Yeah.
And
momentum.
The momentum comes, and that penultimate game against West Ham, you win and you stay up, and we end up winning the game by 6. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really was amazing. That's why for every pitch invasion, I was just savouring it. Keep coming on, Blues. I want this game never to finish. It was brilliant.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And like you said, we finished that season. We managed to stay up. It was a difficult time. But like I said, those last 8 or 9 games of the season were...
But Cameron, just going to your point about contractual obligations and stuff, obviously I was only on loan.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to Turkey.
Yeah.
I didn't want to because I only had a season left.
Yeah.
So I was trading on my own. Obviously, Everton was speaking to Trabzonspor at the time, but the president wanted to see me.
Okay.
Face to face. So I flew out with the Everton delegation over to Turkey to meet the president. Met the president. Spoke to the president, went for a walk with the president, and we spoke, and he granted me the permission to join Everton. And then from there, I flew straight from there to pre-season in Italy, in Pisa, with the team. And I was delighted to be an Evertonian, a true Evertonian then. So listen, I was at Arsenal longest, and I was at Everton second longest, and I'm so proud and to be able to be a captain of the great football club as well. It's an absolute privilege, Cameron, honestly.
Yeah, well, we're going to move on to that. I have got that written down about captaining Everton Football Club, first black captain of Everton Football Club as well, which I think is really important. So we'll move on to that as well. Obviously, prior to that season where you were given the captaincy, joined on a permanent deal in the summer of 1999, and in that 1999-2000 season, 12 league goals, 26 appearances, and one massive league goal that still stands to this day as the last Everton player to score a winning goal at Anfield. And obviously, this podcast is being recorded just a week or just over a week away from another Merseyside derby at Anfield, Carlo's first Premier League derby at Anfield, believe it or not. Obviously, he had the one in the FA Cup, but we won't talk too much about that one.
No, that's a distant memory.
We won't bring that one up.
Don't remember it either.
No, I try not to. Every time I think about Anfield derbies, that's just a horrible one.
I was there. I know.
It wasn't great to take whatsoever, that one. But that game, Anfield, Merseyside derby, obviously Everton hadn't had a bad record against Liverpool at home or away during that time. Now it's much different, of course, not just at Anfield, but even at Goodison. We haven't beat them in over a decade, even longer at Anfield, of course. That record still stands, and I'm sure you're immensely proud of that, and Evertonians are immensely proud of that. But am I right in saying, Kev, that you wouldn't mind seeing that record broken in a week's time?
Cameron, do you know something? I say it every single year. I don't want the record. I want the record gone. Yeah. But every year I say that, I keep it for another year. So do you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to change the narrative, Cameron. I want to keep it.
Yeah.
I want to keep it.
And hopefully we can remember this interview.
Exactly. If I say I want to keep it, hopefully it will be gone in the next 8 days or whatever. Look, for me, that game at Anfield encapsulated the spirit and Everton Football Club,
Yeah,
because you're at Anfield. It's difficult to get points there, let alone to beat them
yeah,
there, and it's difficult to keep them
yeah,
scoreless.
yeah,
But when we looked around that dressing room, there was a lot of experience, there was a lot of quality, there was a lot of toughness in that team. And we looked at them and thought, you know what, we've got a good chance
yeah,
here. We've got a really good chance. The key, Cameron, is to get your noses in front.
yeah,
If you could get your noses in front, then you could set about them. And luckily, it was after 6 minutes, I scored. Good move, reverse pass by Franny Jeffers, and I hit it on the up, and I hit it down, and Sander Vesterveld couldn't keep it out. And do you know what? My defining memory of that was all the pockets of bruise in the cop.
yeah.
Jumping up and down. It's the cop, you know what I mean? The Blues are going nuts in the cop. It was absolutely brilliant. You could hear the Annie Road, all the fans going mental in the Annie Road. There's little pockets all over the stadium of Blues going crazy. And we had like 84 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Obviously, 3 players sent off in the end and all that kind of thing. But we came out of it with a win. And what a brilliant time. So, yeah, I want to keep it, but I'd like somebody like Dominic Calvert-Lewin to score the winner.
Yeah.
Or Richarlison or somebody like that. Because I want them to feel how I feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want them to feel. I know Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored an equaliser.
Yeah.
But to get the winner at Anfield is a different feeling altogether. And I want them to feel that, because it's an incredible feeling.
It's a completely different feeling, I agree. Well, I can only imagine. And like you said, we've seen Everton teams go to Anfield in the past since that famous goal. And look, Everton have come up against some good Liverpool teams and lost to some good Liverpool teams, better than we are. When we've come up against some sides where maybe the luck hasn't gone our way, be it refereeing decisions or, a bouncing ball, etc., etc. But it's been a long time since that goal at Anfield that you scored, of course. You mentioned there about it being in the 6th minute, scoring early and then keeping them out. And if there's something that we've seen under Carlo Ancelotti so far as Everton manager, is not necessarily scoring goals early, but scoring and then having that sort of flat back four, low block, defending. And until very recently, the Man United game, we've been very, very good at keeping teams out and certainly not allowing teams to get past us. We'll talk a little bit in a moment about the defence of Godfrey, Holgate, Mina and Keane and how solid that was during that period, the games against Chelsea, Arsenal, Leicester. But we have come up against good Liverpool teams at Anfield since then, and like I said, we've had bad luck in certain games, but I don't want to put every single result since that goal at Anfield that you scored down to that. Do you think that it's a mentality situation or a confidence situation with certainly certain results in the past? Because I can remember coming up against really poor Liverpool teams and Liverpool teams that have been on awful form, and I know it's a Merseyside derby and form goes out of the window, but as a player and as a goal scorer, a winning goal scorer in a Merseyside derby away from home, do you think that it's sort of a mentality, block that we need to get over? Of course, like I said, haven't beat them in over a decade and even longer away from home. Is it what's your sort? How do you feel going into a game like that as a player? Does the occasion play on your mind, or do you sort of just need to move that on? And I suppose, what would your advice be to those Everton players that'll be, going out at Anfield in the next week or so to get the win? Because Carlo Ancelotti isn't going to say, this is Anfield here, whatever the result is, it doesn't really matter. He's going to go out and say, these have lost to Burnley, Brighton and who else did he lost the last game, didn't he? At home, they've lost 3 on the bounce at home. We've got a great away record. Go out and do your business. Is it sort of a mentality block to get over? And do you think that maybe in the past Everton have had an issue with that?
I think sometimes what the problem is form, attitude, a sense of when you gain confidence, Cameron, you're winning, And whether you like it or not, listen, Evertonians ain't going to let the team not know what the Merseyside derby's coming up. From the moment the game finishes, the game before the Merseyside derby finishes, everyone's going to be talking about the Merseyside derby. You can't get away from it. So obviously then you start to focus. That bit of everything in training goes up a level. You know, that sharpness, that everything you tuned in. But you do need a break.
Yeah.
You need a break, and you need your defense to be playing decent in order to keep them out, and you need to be able to take a chance. Whether you have to keep them out until late, or you keep them out early and get a goal, and then you got to start keeping them out. You know, either way, you've got to be able to stay in the game at every point. I think the problem with Everton has been there's been lapses of concentration. Yeah, they've played against some not so great Liverpool teams. But one thing Liverpool do at Anfield, they keep asking you questions. And when they ask you questions, if there's a lapse in concentration, they're going to score. And once they get their noses in front, you have to open up a bit, and that's when you tend to find they're at their best. What's happening here, for the first time in a long time, is Everton kind of find themselves, their form is on the up, and Liverpool's form is on the down. I know, look, you're talking about Burnley, Brighton, and Man City. You know, they've lost their last three games. We know Man City could do that to anybody. But it's still a beating. It's still a beating, isn't it? And you've heard all the excuses coming out from the Liverpool camp, etc. This one's had more rest, and that one's had cold feet, and you name it, it's been there. So this is the stuff that you use as ammunition. When you go in there, you want to put it on them, and you want to put it on them fast. So if I'm in this Everton team, or in and around this Everton team, obviously you've got a game or two to go before then. But as soon as you get to Anfield, you know it's not Fortress Anfield. There ain't the fan base there who can be the 12th man for them, and they're vulnerable at home. They're not as tenacious as they were. So you've got to be going in there thinking, listen, guys, this is a great opportunity for us to take them out. You know, to beat them. And you've got to go in with that mentality. You've got to fight fire with fire and get your noses in front.
Definitely. Well, you mentioned there just on the start about confidence and momentum, and you know, going into games with that run of confidence. I don't want to jinx anything, but Everton, of course, have had a very, very good away record this season. 7 wins out of 11, 2 draws, 2 losses, of course. Gone on an unbeaten run now for a long time away from home. Won 4 out of 4 on the bounce, which is the first time we've done that since the 80s. And like you mentioned there, Liverpool are coming into this with 3 straight home defeats after not losing for about 2 or 3 years at Anfield in the Premier League. So is that something that the players have got to really, really sort of thrive on? Is that confidence and that momentum? And just, you know, you hear a lot about the Merseyside derby when it comes up, especially in the years that we've played, you know, not so great Liverpool sides, let's say. Not recently, because they've been very good recently, and it kills me to say it, but they have. But, you know, 5 or 10 years ago, we were playing Liverpool sides that were finishing below us ultimately in the league. And you hear, you know, people saying, you know, not just about the mentality issue, but playing the occasion rather than the side. Is that big as a player? Do you sort of, you know, did you used to go into these type of games, and do you think that these players should go into it next week and play this Liverpool team who aren't very confident at the moment, who have been defensively shaken at times, who are struggling in terms of their defensive, you know, the players that they can put out through injuries? And I know that's not an excuse because everybody's had injuries, but do you sort of, is that something that you think about and you think, yeah, sometimes we have played the occasion and sort of the Merseyside derby at Anfield and blah blah blah, rather than just playing the team? And like you mentioned about COVID times as well, this is the first time we'll play them at Anfield without any fans in the stadium. That FA Cup game that we won't talk about had fans in the stadium. We've played them twice at Goodison. Could have won the first time, which was the first game back after the the break. Tom Davies hits the post in the last 5 seconds, and we know 5 minutes, and we know what happened at Goodison earlier on this season. We done really well to get back into the game. So is it sort of play the team that aren't confident at the moment and thrive on that rather than the occasion that is a Merseyside derby?
Yeah, I think sometimes what can happen is because you haven't won in such a long time, players can get anxious. And sometimes when players get anxious, they don't perform.
Yeah.
Earlier on in the season when Everton played Liverpool at Goodison, Everton were in the ascendancy form-wise. But the game went on and Liverpool seemed to be the dominant team. Everton kept pegging them back, but Everton looked like they couldn't string the passes together, didn't look as confident, and that it can make you anxious at times. But I think you have to look at the team that you're playing and where they are. This is one thing. This is as part of the preparation. Liverpool aren't as dangerous as they were. They are going through a very difficult time. Can they score goals? Yes, they can score goals. But you know what? They look frail at the back. They look like they'll give you chances. So, if you're Everton, you're thinking, what we got to do? We got to defend properly. If we can defend properly, we can score goals against this team. Because no disrespect to Jordan Henderson or whoever else, they're playing 2 centre midfielders at centre half. Yeah. So if you're Dominic Calvert-Lewin, get me the ball. Get me the ball in the danger zone, and let me do my thing. Fabinho's playing at the back with Jordan Henderson. So obviously, you've got to look at the team who you're playing against. You've got to look at where their frailties are, and I'm sure Carlo Ancelotti and Big Dunk will be taking them through all this anyway. But you have to scheme for the opposition, and when you scheme for them, you have to take into account what they are and the personnel that they're going to play, etc. And try and go into it confident, knowing this is our game plan and this is what we're going to do. Because they've played against this Liverpool team enough times. They've got a few draws against them. And by the way, earlier on this season, didn't play well and got a draw, which was great. Now they're not playing well and Everton are playing better. This is the time where you could, push that supremacy and get a win. Why not? It's about time, Everton. It's about damn time.
That's it. I'm exactly the same as you, mate. I mean, I was alive during when you scored the winner at Anfield, but barely. I was born in October 1998, so I don't remember the goal. I don't remember the occasion. It was just before I went to my first Everton game. So in terms of myself as an Evertonian, I've never seen us go to Anfield and win, and I've seen so many close games. I've seen us put in decent performances and just miss out. But like you said, I agree completely. I do think there is a level of anxiety, certainly at times. You mentioned then, Everton were in absolutely unbelievable form at the start of this season. 7 wins on the bounce just before the international break. We'd thrashed West Ham in the Cup, we'd thrashed Brighton, West Brom, good win against Palace, obviously beat Tottenham on the opening day of the season, and then we come into that Liverpool game and there was a lot made about the international break and the fact that stopped the momentum a little bit, but we did look anxious within the opening 10 minutes. Not only had they scored, but we couldn't get a touch on the ball, and okay, we were coming up against the Liverpool side who were very good and had won the league previously, but I also think, Kev, and I don't know if you agree, this just shows the progress of Everton, and we'll go on to talking about Carlo Ancelotti in a second and Duncan Ferguson and the progress, but Liverpool finished 50 points above Everton last season, and I think there was a joke going around with Liverpool fans as to state that if the points gap between Everton and Liverpool was a team, that would have finished above Everton as well. Now we're a matter of a couple of wins away and we're straight back up there, so that should be a momentum in itself, shouldn't it, as to not just looking at Liverpool as a Merseyside derby and as we haven't won there in so long, but looking at Liverpool as these are the team that are in and around our position in the league. So of course I know we've still got a couple of games to go. We've got to play Fulham on Sunday, which we should be winning, but you never know, and then we play Man City midweek, which is a very difficult game, but this should be a game, shouldn't it, Kev, where this team are looking in the going, it's not so much Liverpool, it's not so much a derby, that's a team who are in and around our position and we want to be making some space on them.
Well, exactly. Now, usually what happens is Liverpool would have been at the top end, Everton are struggling, and the Merseyside derby comes up and you start giving it, the league form goes out the window. Well, do you know what? League form doesn't go out the window right now because both teams are very close to each other. Everton have games in hand. Everton win, and it puts Everton right up to be in that top four. Especially now that, look at the teams that are up there. Everton being up there shows what a great season Everton are having. And we know it's not fully functional yet. You know, there's a lot of players who have come in who are it's just their first, they've not even been in a season. This is their first season at Everton. So there's still things to gel. There's still players to, find their best form, etc. But I just think it's a fantastic position for Everton to be in. And woe behold, Everton finish above Liverpool this season.
Imagine it.
I mean, I'll tell you what, there'd be a meltdown on the red side. I'm telling you.
Imagine it.
I've got a good pal, Red Nose John, and he will be. I'm telling you now, he will be in meltdown. If Everton won at Anfield, he will melt down, and two, if Everton were to finish above Liverpool after being so far behind last season, that would tell you about the job that Carlo Ancelotti's done and the job that he's doing. Yeah. Because I think this is something that the platform is being built, the foundations are being set now. Yeah. And, we've said it before, when there's injuries, players like Tom Davies have to come in and step up. And I believe Tom Davies has stepped up.
I agree.
I really believe he has. But I think there's going to be more players coming in during the summer to really beef up this Everton squad. So when you actually don't pick, when you chop and change the team, it's going to be just as strong whoever's playing. That's the key.
I agree. Absolutely. Well, moving on then to Carlo Ancelotti. You've just mentioned there about the job Carlo Ancelotti is doing. I think we both agree, as the many other Evertonians, that, we've vastly improved under Carlo. I mean, the difference between last season and this season is night and day. And yes, we're still losing some silly games and we're still putting in the odd poor performance. But there's been a couple of things that I've really took notice of. It's not really the bad performances that I'm looking at, because I know that this squad isn't the best squad in the league, and it still needs a lot of quality adding to it. But a couple of things, such as when we lose a game, we usually bounce back in the next game, which wasn't popular of Everton in recent years, last 5-6 years or so. If we'd lost, we'd then go on a mad losing streak and the edge would drop, whereas now we seem to lose the game against West Ham, for example, we step the foot on the gas, we won the next week against Wolves, we lose to Newcastle again, we step our foot on the gas, we put in a really good performance against Leeds United. Like I mentioned before, that mentality of doing that and coming back, and coming back from being behind Liverpool at Goodison Park, Man United more recently, win against Tottenham on the opening game of the season is massive as well. Is that something that you really think Carlo Ancelotti has improved at the football club? Is that belief in the players, is to that when you lose games to just go on and step it up in the next game and go and win? And as well as that, the players that he's brought in, I mean, we spent 60 odd million pounds in the summer, which usually wouldn't get you, would get you a decent midfielder. We spent 60 million on Ben Godfrey, who looks like one of the best young defenders in the country. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know an awful lot about Ben Godfrey when he signed, and now he can play everywhere. He can play left back, right back, centre back,
all across that back.
He's
four.
Unbelievable.
He can play all across that back four, and you find, Cameron. Sorry,
no,
cut across you find that he takes pride in wherever he plays. He wants to be the best,
absolutely,
in that position, and having a player like that in your back four helps
absolutely
immensely, because Lucas Digne, if he's not there, you thought to yourself, wow, who's going to come in and do a job? He was brilliant. He's been brilliant in that back four. So I think defensively, Everton have been a lot more solid. I think what Carlo and obviously his assistant, Big Dunk, has done, he's brought a belief to the players that we understand you could have bad games, but you leave the bad game behind you and you concentrate on the next game. Because I think what tends to happen before is Everton have a bad game and they carry that bad performance into the next one.
Completely agree.
That ain't happening. I mean, you've laid a ghost to rest this season, where Richarlison, when Richarlison never played, Everton had never won.
Yeah.
Well, that's been laid to rest this season. So that just goes to show progress is being made mentally as well as physically for the team. That it's not obviously not fully where it needs to be yet, but the key for everybody at Goodison and all the Blues is to see that progress, to see the progression coming, and you start adding better pieces to the puzzle, because he's not Carlo Ancelotti can't just do it all at once. It's got to take a little bit of time, and you've got to build momentum, and you could see the momentum building at Everton. And if Everton win their games in hand, they're in the top 4
comfortably.
And if somebody said to you, Cameron, at the start of the season, in February, we will be in the top 4, you'd snap their hand off. All the Blues would snap their hand off, right?
Absolutely.
So again, Everton have the opportunity to really make some big strides, and I think Carlo Ancelotti's got the temperament, he's got the experience, and he's got the ear, he's got the ears and the minds of the players to help push them to challenge for that top 4. It's an amazing turnaround.
It is. It's magnificent. Like you said, at the start of the season, I wouldn't have just snapped your hand off. I'd have probably turned around and said, I don't know what you're drinking, but it's very, very strong. Because the back end of last season, Everton were really, really poor. We were losing games. We lost to Bournemouth, who had been relegated at the time. They come to Goodison Park and absolutely wiped the floor with us. And that wasn't the first time we'd seen performances like that. The season before, under Marco Silva, very similar squad, went to Fulham when we were in a good run of form, and they'd already been relegated and we lost there. So Carlo's brought in a lot of good players. We talked about Ben Godfrey, Alan, Abdoulaye Doucouré, like you said, Rolls Royce of an engine in midfield, James Rodriguez, who is just an absolutely excellent footballer, and I think it has to be said about the players that Carlo Ancelotti and Big Dunk and David, of course, and Carlo's team that have improved, that were at Everton Football Club before. You spoke about Tom Davies, who was a player that the argument's still very prominent at this moment, but I completely agree. I think for a lad who's stepped in and had to do a job of somebody like Alan, who's so vital to this team, he's done really well. We're seeing Andre Gomez in recent weeks has stepped his form up.
He looks back to his best now.
He does.
He looks really good again.
He does, and you've obviously, I know Richarlison's having a little bit of a golden drought, but he's still working hard. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, of course, again, top goal scorer this season, taking away penalties. He doesn't take our penalties, not that we get many anyway. We spoke about Dom last time, and you were on the channel, Kevin, the improvement of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but I think it has to be said as well for Carlo Ancelotti. It isn't just the players that he's brought in that we know have made a quality impact, as well as Marcel Brands, of course, because I think Ben Godfrey was a lot to do with Marcel. It's the players that he's improved that have been at the team: Michael Keane, Yerry Mina, like we mentioned, Tom Davies, Andre Gomez, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He is just the man, isn't he? And it's not just the man. He's not like he's come in, okay, he's brought in 2 midfielders and a creative player because we desperately needed that. But it's not like he's just gone, right, get rid of everybody and let me just bring everybody. He's worked with the players that are here. And who'd have thought Dominic Calvert-Lewin 2 years ago would be challenging for the Golden Boot in the Premier League? Who'd have thought Michael Keane 2 years ago would be our most solid centre-half? I mean, the argument's still there. 3 weeks ago, I was saying Michael Keane's our best centre-half and has to start every week. Now, Yerry Mina has been excellent. Ben Godfrey is exceptional. So I think it's about that as well, isn't it, Kev? Is the improvements that Carlo has made to the players that were already at Everton Football Club, and that's also testament to the players as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's important. Not only does he bring in what the team needs, i.e. that Rolls Royce engine, the toughness in midfield, the bit of flair from James Rodriguez that was lacking. The players that are there improve under the manager and come together as a team. I think even Alex Iwobi has looked good, etc. But it's all about the squad. This is the important thing. The squad. What would happen with the squad is the squad still can lose the odd game here and there, but as the squad starts to get stronger and as more quality players start to come in, when you're losing at half time, the manager can make an adjustment, bring 2 players on, and they'll change the game and you'll end up winning that game. Yeah. That's what the top teams do. They might be down and then they bring somebody on and the next minute the game changes and the other team are on the back foot and you end up winning. But that's a process. Yeah. That really is a process. But you need the team to be all together and understand what the manager wants in order to get that. And that's what Everton's, that's the plan, what's happening now. It is a process. There is momentum there. The foundation is looking pretty good right now. I just really hope Everton could finish off this season on a really good run, and I'd love to see him be involved in the cup. Honestly, I really
well,
would.
That starts tonight, doesn't it? I know we're short for time, and I don't want to take too much time up, but I just want to talk a little bit about captaining Everton Football Club, like we mentioned earlier on. Had that really successful season in '99 on loan, and joined on a permanent. Another successful season, 12 league goals in 26 games. Talked about the Anfield goal. Then I think it was the following season. If I'm not wrong in saying, it might have been the season after, you were given
it was the following
season. Yeah, you were given the
pre-season
captain's armband at Everton Football Club. Like we mentioned, first black captain of Everton Football Club. You talked about growing up in Brixton and it not being very nice. And obviously we know all of the stories, and it absolutely sickens me that racial abuse is still going on to this day. It sickens me that social media apps are so it can just happen, and nothing really is done about it. I think they really need to clamp down on that. How big of a moment was that for you as a player then, and coming into a football club, being embraced by the fans, being embraced by the club? Obviously, you spoke about that fan on the aeroplane. Was that just the pinnacle then of being given the captain's armband to lead Everton out to Goodison Park every week?
Cameron, yeah, it was. I mean, I go back to 1988, and I'm at Goodison Park as an Arsenal player, and I'm getting racially abused with the other black players there. I come back, I joined the club in 1999, and there's none of that there. And then 3 years later, 3 years later, I get the opportunity to actually captain the football club. There's a lot of hard work that's gone in at Everton. Not only on the playing side, but on the fan side, etc. And personally, I've spoke to a few Evertonians about this, and they've never really had a black hero. They've never had really someone they could relate to. And obviously Daniel McCarthy and Earl Barrett and some of these guys were good, but they never had somebody who, I was lucky enough to wear the number 9 shirt. And I know that has a mystique to it at Goodison Park. Look at the greats who have worn that. And for me to get that shirt, and for me to do it some justice, and then for me to get the armband, I've done some things in my career, and that is right up there with the best things that's ever happened to me in football. So, I'm just so, I'm delighted, I'm humbled by everything that happened to me at Goodison Park, and that was probably one of the best things to ever happen to me at Goodison Park, was to get that armband.
Amazing. And one of those number 9 Kevin Campbell shirts is actually just outside my room there. My dad's got a couple of signed shirts from yourself, and he's going to put one up. I'd put it up, but I'd probably knock it down because I'm useless at anything like that. He's actually got the drill out now. I don't know if you can hear him. He's got the drill out. Probably put him
Go
on
on, Dad.
Now.
Go on.
So yeah, absolutely amazing. And like you said, just to echo that, I know I've said it a couple of times, but I have had a lot of comments of people saying, Kev was my hero growing up. Them goals were so important to this football club, and to have a player like Kev come in, right at the end of the season. And if you put it into perspective now, now if Everton were in a relegation battle with 8 or 9 games to go, I wouldn't be very, very confident we were getting out of it. So it shows how important that was, and like you said, it's absolutely amazing. I want to end the podcast then on a question. We always like to end on a question. A massive thanks, Kev, for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Honestly, it means a massive amount to me. Taking your time out of your day. To come on multiple times now. Honestly, it means a lot. There's been a conversation going about on social media and with Evertonians recently. Carlo Ancelotti addressed it in his press conference yesterday before the Spurs game. I think a couple of people put it on Twitter. Top 4 finish or an FA Cup. Now, Carlo was asked this, and he said, for the progress of the football club, I think he said he prefers a top 4 finish, finishing in the Champions League. I think what he's talking about there is being able to build on the squad, bringing better quality of players in, the long-term sort of effects. But for the fans, obviously, the elation, the emotion, it would be an FA Cup. And I think Ian Kroll of The Echo put out a tweet, and I said, for me, it's the FA Cup, with a club that are rich in history, rich in trophies, and we've been starved of that for all of my lifetime. I've never seen Everton win a cup. And he said, even with no fans in the stadium at Wembley, and I said, well, it'll be horrible, but I'd rather be sat at home screaming and shouting and getting the beers open that Everton have won an FA Cup than not winning one at all. from you then, I suppose, as an Evertonian, as a fan and as a player, where do you sort of stand on that? What do you think it'd be better for Everton this season? A cup, and then sort of maybe focus on European, or, you know, obviously not focus on the cup. We've got a big game against Spurs later on, but is top four more of a priority, would you say?
I think trophy. Trophy's everything. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you can't parade a Champions League spot.
That's it.
I understand the bigger picture for Carlo. Of course I do. 100%. But, and it is a bit of lucrative. It is very lucrative for the football club. Yeah. But realistically, you get into the Champions League, Everton aren't going to win the Champions League. So you want to go into the Champions League knowing you got a chance. Yeah. So maybe for the sake of 12 months, winning a trophy, getting some belief in the team, and then going next season where you can add a few more pieces to the team and then really push on. I think I'd take the trophy all day long. Yeah. I would. I'd take the Listen, Evertonians need that trophy. Yeah. Just say, do you know, that team picture with that pot in front of you is brilliant. Every Evertonian would have it on their wall. Yeah. So that's what I'd go for.
No, spot on. And like you said, for the fans, of course, look, I don't know how I'll react. I think I'll probably be on a drinking session for about a week, because I just don't know how that excitement would be. But for the players as well, look, we've got a lot of good players, and we've got a lot of players who have seen success. Luca Dean's had a lot of success in his career. James Rodriguez, of course, none more than the manager Carlo Ancelotti, who's won everything. I dread to think of how many, you know, trophies and medals and honours are in his trophy cabinet. But there's also a lot of young players in the team, Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you know, who haven't really had that success, and it would be absolutely amazing for them to have that success, and who better to have it with than Everton. We'll finish up there, Kev. I know I've rambled for a while. I apologise.
Cameron, can I just say, I'd like to say, you know, R.I.P. to Di Davis, the Everton goalkeeper from the past, who passed away. Yeah. You know, obviously deepest condolences to his family and all the Blue family.
Definitely.
Who supported him, and you know, it's a difficult time. Definitely. So just wanted to get that in before I go.
Absolutely. And you know, you mentioned Di Davis there, excellent goalkeeper for Everton, and an idol to Neville Southall, who I think a lot of people would say is Everton's greatest ever goalkeeper. He put a tweet out today about how inspirational Di was. So yeah, 100% echo that. Rest in peace to Di, and all of our families go out to his friends. All of our thoughts go out to his friends and family. Well, a big thanks, Kev, for joining us once again. I really do appreciate it. Honestly, it means a massive amount to me. I'm honoured and proud to be able to sit here and talk to people like yourself about our great football club, and how inspirational and how effective you were for our football club coming in and just being a fantastic player. So massive thank you. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please do leave a like. If you're watching on iTunes, Apple Music, all of those platforms, if you could leave a rating, that would mean a great deal to me. If you're watching as a YouTube video, please do leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. Anything else to say before we finish up, Kev?
All I say is, come on, you toffees, you can do it. That's on. It. All the best. Up the toffees.
That's it. Up the toffees. Let's hope, like Kev said, we go for a big next couple of games, and then beat them at Anfield, do them over, finish above them, and then we build on it after that. Big thank you for watching. Up the toffees, and we'll see you soon.